The Broncos have made a kicker trade, and I don't like it. I'm going to explain why in today's video, but Wil Lutz is coming over from New Orleans to reunite with Sean Payton, and Brett Maher's time with this team is done. Ian Rappaport, the first one to break the news. The Broncos are trading for Saints kicker Wil Lutz, just one L, which is all right. Source said, back with Sean Payton. And I'm not a fan of this move, and I'm going to tell you why in today's video. But it is roster cut down day, so we will have another video coming out in a few short hours breaking down all the roster cuts and the initial 53-man roster. So make sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications so you do not miss that. But let's get some background information on Wil Lutz, and this is why I'm not a fan of the move. The Broncos are moving on from a kicker who is statistically coming off the best season of his NFL career, Brett Maher, and I understand the postseason yips got to him, but he made over 90% of his field goals, and he kicked a lot of them. And they are instead going with a guy named Wil Lutz, who is coming off the worst season of his NFL career, where he made 74% of his field goals. Wil Lutz, throughout his NFL career, has had some great moments, but those moments have not come recently. In 2019, he was a Pro Bowler. In 2020, he had the worst season of his career up until that point. In 2021, he missed the entire season due to injury. In 2022, he then followed up the last season he played, which was 2020, with an even worse season. So in some ways, Wil Lutz has just gotten worse and worse and worse over the last 3 years, where Brett Maher, in the meantime, is coming off the best season of his NFL career. Brett Maher last year, if I can just read you guys some numbers, was 29 for 32, but most impressively, he was 9 of 11 from 50 yards and more. The guy was absolute money from deep last year, and sure, we all know what happened in the postseason, right? Missed 5 straight extra points, 4 came against the Bucs. But you know what? If the fear is that Brett Maher is going to cost you a postseason game, I got some good news for you, Denver. At least you made it to the postseason, right? And this isn't loser talk, but let's focus on making the playoffs before moving on from a kicker who might get the yips in the postseason, right? Maybe get you a kicker that helps you make the postseason. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here and move on from a kicker that might let the moment get too big to him in the postseason before you even make the postseason. But Sean Payton wants a reliable kicker, a guy he can trust, because as a head coach, you don't want to have to second-guess yourself as to whether or not you should go for it or kick a 53-yarder, right? Instead, he wants to go with someone he has more faith in, more trust in, and that's Wil Lutz in this case, and I just don't like the move. I am not a fan of this move. I like Brett Maher. I know that's a crazy, bold thing to say, and I could be a clown for it after what he did in the postseason last year. But again, we are not talking about a perennial playoff team. If that was the case, sure, then you squeak all the fine details out and you get the perfect kicker. But we're talking about a team that hasn't gone to the playoffs in almost a decade. And if the logic for moving on from Brett Maher is the postseason, okay, how about you make the postseason first? Like I said, he's coming off a phenomenal season. The guy was absolute cash money. 29 of 32 in the regular season, 9 of 11 from 50 yards or more, 6 of 7 from 40 yards to 49, and he did not miss a single kick under 39 yards. He was accountable. He was reliable. If he did not have that all-time meltdown in the postseason, he would still be Dallas's kicker. And if, again, I don't want to be a broken record, if your logic is the postseason, sure, if you're the Cowboys, I understand that move. You can't run it back after what happened in the playoffs and run into the same issue again. But if you're a team like Denver who has not made the postseason and won 5 games last year, 9 one-score losses, maybe having a kicker who is coming off the best season of his NFL career could help flip some of those 9-score losses. Meanwhile, if you are a team like if you are a team going after Wil Lutz, who is coming off the worst season of his NFL career, well, that could maybe spell doom for you in some of those one-score losses. But let me know. Pick a kicker, Wil Lutz or Brett Maher. I tossed Brandon McManus out there just in case anyone wants to go back and dig in memory lane. Brett Maher works as well. So between the 3 kickers, how about that? which one would you rather have? Wil Lutz or Brett Maher or Brandon McManus? I guess the BM for Brett Maher and Brandon McManus is not going to play well in the comment section, but you guys get the gist. I just want to know which kicker of the three that was in contention, if you will, for the kicking job this year you would rather have. Now, some other news that broke today that I want to touch on before we get on out of here and get ready for the roster cutdown video. Albert Okwuegbunam is done for now in Denver. The Broncos are waiving him. Ultimately, it was not too little too late. It was a lot, but just too late, right? When you look at his preseason numbers, all coming against the Rams in the preseason finale, 7 grabs, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown. It was a sensational performance from Alberto, and I thought it was a performance that, like I said in my post-game video, it locked him up on a 53-man roster. And it might not be Denver's, but I think another team is going to take a good hard look at what he did in that preseason finale and go, Alberto is better than our tight end 3. Let's bring him on over, and let's see if our coaching staff can find more of what he did the last time he was on the field. But the last 3 years for the former Missouri Tiger has just not been as hopeful as we all wanted to be, right? Came into 2022 as the starter, really quickly lost that starting job, couldn't block, and was just not getting done in the receiving department to make it sense for him to even be on the field at times. But there is a good fraction of the fan base right now that believes cutting Albert Okwuegbunam was a mistake. So give me your thoughts down in the comment section. Was cutting Albert O a mistake? Is this something that Denver's going to look back on and we're all going to think what a colossal, epic failure this was? Maybe not to that extreme, but this was not a move that Denver would like to repeat if they had a chance to do it all over again after seeing what Alberto does. And I don't know, I could see like Detroit, for example, claiming him. I'm just throwing a team out there that I feel like could use a good tight end because they lost TJ Hawkinson, and I don't quite know what. Oh, they drafted Sam Laporta, but he's just a rookie. So another, no, different, not Iowa. But let me know, was cutting Albert O a mistake? I think as a fan base, we probably overreacted to just one preseason game. There are a lot of tears being shed on Twitter right now about cutting Albert O, and the reality is, you saw his regular season numbers. He had 3 years, and he acclimated all 500 yards and like 3 to 4 touchdowns. So at the end of the day, I think we probably overreacted to just one preseason game and built a statue out of going up against the Rams' third-string defense. And the coaching staff knew that, and that's why they decided to stick by their gut, and that was him being tight end 5 behind UDFAs on the very first depth chart. That will do it for us on today's edition of the Broncos Breakdown, or this edition, I should say, because we will see everyone in a few short hours for the Broncos roster cutdown video. So get the entire initial 53-man roster by subscribing and turning on those notifications so that way you don't miss the video when it drops.